Fight fans, fight fans, fight fans. This is Kurt Deville with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I have some news, not new news, concerning Terence Crawford. As you guys don't know, if you don't know, Terence Crawford no longer is the undisputed welterweight champion after the IBF strips the title from him, okay? Terence Crawford's run as undisputed welterweight champion lasted about 3 months and 0 title defenses. The boxer was stripped of his IBF welterweight title Thursday for failing to face mandatory challenger Jared Boots Ennis, according to ESPN. Now, they're already updated Ennis as the new welterweight champion. Crawford, who is still the WBA, the WBC, and the WBO champion, unified the belts July 29th. Against Errol Spence. After becoming the undisputed champion, Crawford was ordered by the IBF to face Jared Boots Ennis, who defeated Karen Chukhazan, whatever that is, in January for the IBF interim welterweight title and defended the belt against Mr. Villa in July. Unfortunately, Crawford was contractually obligated to give Spence a rematch after the latter activated a rematch clause. However, the IBF does not recognize rematch clauses as an excuse for avoiding a mandatory challenger, so it was stripped Crawford of his title and gave it to the 26-year-old Ennis, who holds a record of 31-0 with 28 knockouts. Crawford and Spence still have yet to schedule their rematch through ESPN reports that the most recent plans are for a date in February. Whenever, if ever, the fight comes to pass, Ennis looms as the potential next opponent for the winner. And let me counterpunch. The IBF, they don't play around. I mean, I think sometimes the IBF, they're too strict for their own good, but they do have their stickler ways, because the same thing happened to Terence Crawford is the same thing happened to Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury was stripped 2 weeks later after he beat Klitschko, okay? But he wasn't undisputed. He was, unified, but he was still stripped by the IBF. And, that's normal protocol from the IBF. Now, what does it mean for Jared Boots Ennis? Okay, well, he becomes an email champion. He becomes a guy that gets the belt by default of being stripped. That's all that really means. And I think what people are going to do, and this is what people should do, they should just still recognize Terence Crawford of still being the undisputed champion. You know what I mean? Because he was stripped doesn't mean that he lost. Now, Jared Boots Ennis, it depends on what he does with the belts. I'd still like to see that fight between Jared Boots Ennis and Terence Crawford, though. But it depends on what Errol Spence is doing. But Errol wants his rematch. So, I mean, what could you really do about that? There's nothing you could really do about it. And I don't think that guarantees a fight between him and Terence Crawford, though, just because he's now the IBF. Because, I mean, if him being the interim champion doesn't mean anything, what makes you think that the IBF belt is going to mean anything to Terence Crawford, especially after achieving 2 of them? And I mean 2 of them, I mean 2 undisputed slots from 140 to 147. He's been a champion and of all the belts in 2 different weight classes, so that really doesn't matter. He just has to keep winning. Floyd hasn't been undisputed at all, but he was still one of the best fighters and the biggest stars in the sport of boxing. So I don't really think that matters too much to me. That's why when I heard it, it really didn't bother me. It wasn't something I was like, whoa, because I mean, what does it really mean? Does it make him fight anything? No, it just means now the fight is likely not to happen. That's all that really means. Now, Jared Boots Ennis, I think he's a bad boy. I think, he's like Keith Thurman was with Floyd, Money Mayweather. But I don't look at Terence Crawford as Floyd Money Mayweather. I don't look at him like that. Floyd ducked Keith Thurman at that time, and for good reason. Keith Thurman was one of those live wires and one of those guys. I think he was like 19-0 at the time. If Floyd would have fought him, Floyd at that age, 38 years old, he probably would have got dusted. Or would have been beaten. Or if he would have won, it would have warranted a rematch, and he probably would have lost the rematch. You know what I'm saying? That's how that probably would have went. And Floyd fought Berto instead, a guy with 4 or 5 losses at the time. So, I mean, he knew what he was doing, but that's not Terence Crawford at all. Terence Crawford is a guy that, he has other business to attend. Okay, so, it might seem like the same situation, similar, but not the same. Terence Crawford is undefeated. I look at him as still undisputed, and he's already been undisputed, 2 times undisputed. So it really doesn't matter anyway. Because as soon as he took that last 2 belts from Ndungle, he went to fight Jeff Horn anyway at welterweight. So it really didn't matter. And his journey up there, at 147 continued. And he reigned, and conquered and all that good stuff. But anyway, I think, the IBF made a bad mistake. I think they should have seen what was going on in the division, especially when you have a guy that has all the belts. You have to consider other sanctioning bodies. You have to. But IBF don't, so they're just being dickheads, honestly. You know what I mean? They're like the opposite end of where the WBC is. They're just like, they're sticklers. The WBCs are slackers. So you got slackers over here, and then you got sticklers over here. But anyway, you guys tell me what you think of the news about Terence Crawford no longer being the IBF champion in the welterweight division. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunch. Peace.